This is session number 18 entitled ADA 1-3, Utilizing Local and National Resources.
It is the second day, and it is time to start. We have two sessions this morning, as you're aware, and the third session will be the wrap-up session, where we'll have an opportunity to review the program, answer any last-minute questions, and review the material that workbooks and the materials that you'll be given at that time. Oftentimes, when you have the opportunity to do a seminar in Las Vegas on the third day of a show at 8 o'clock in the morning, it would test the mettle of any speaker, I believe. Our first speaker this morning has such a long bibliography and experience base that I'm not going to attempt to give it all to you. Let me say, however, that he has been active in the disabled rights program and with input in the creation of the American with Disabilities Act. Very active on both the national and the state level. Credentials, very long. It has a program out of Florida called the Compliance Specialist Network that I think you'll find interesting, as well as a lot of what that he has to say. Basically, when you ask someone with this kind of bibliography, and I asked him, well, how would you like to be introduced to our august group? And he said, if you don't mind, here's Bob.
I guess you're all tired of pulling down the arm. You get muscle bound from pulling these machines. But my name is Bob Lessne, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself so you can identify somewhat. I graduated at the University of Miami in special ed, working with retired folks and kids, playing with the kids, which was a lot of fun. Then I have another degree which is called Orientation, Mobility, or Parapathology, where we were blindfolded for the year and we walked around with a cane and a dog and trained at CNI. So the word is to empathize. Although I was blindfolded for the year, I really don't know anything about blindness. Don't know anything about it. I could always take off the blindfold. And had a lot of experiences working with blind folks and multiply handicapped. And by the way, we don't use the word handicapped anymore. Under ADA, it's people with disabilities. People come first. Handicap comes from putting your cap in your hand and begging. So all the words, all the parking signs, everything, handicap is gone or will be gone as soon as they wear out. Then I have another degree from Wisconsin, and that's in, it's called movogenics, but it's in the ergonomics of people with disability and the economics, and then I have a PhD in the same field. So what I do is I help people with disabilities achieve whatever potential they might have. And I don't try to take over their lives. I started a bunch of big companies. I started Crawford Rehab Company and have offices all over the country. And then I decided that I wasn't a businessman, and I couldn't supervise people, and I couldn't fire people, and I was not judgmental. So I became me again. And I put together, as I said, I've been working on this ADA all my life, and the good thing about ADA is we're no longer beggars. We don't have to plead people. And by the way, I want to apologize to people who I offend during this presentation, because I'll probably offend a bunch of people, so if I apologize first, then you can't yell at me later, saying that stuff. Because I do pick fun out of certain people, and I'll tell you what the parameters that I deal with. In analyzing, and part of the ADA, by the way, is to figure out what the person's disability would be. And everybody, there's two kinds of people. There's people with disability in the TABs. TABs is temporarily able-bodied. And eventually, if you live long enough, you will go blind. If you live long enough, you will be a wheelchair rider, wheelchair user. And by the way, words have power, so you watch out for the terminology. We don't use the word crippled, maimed, wheelchair bound. The guy's not bound to the wheelchair. Bedridden, she's not riding the bed. Confined, I'm not confined. So you got to watch out for power. You got to watch out for terminology, because the most valuable thing you have is self-concept and time. You can't lose time, and you can't lose self-concept. So right away, for those religionists who have the Bible to work with, and you have the rules with the Bible, and those people who drive cars have the driving manual. But now you become a person with a disability, and what do I do? What do I do? Who do I turn to? And that's where your image and your responsibility goes, because instead of being seen as people who are hustling oxygen, gas passers, people get, and as seen as a mastectomy therapist, the therapist is the rapist, TAG rapist. Instead of being seen by that, your image should be that you're a total advocate, just like any religion. Every religion has a Bible, and our Bible is ADA, again. Every religion has, there's a book of how to start your own profitable religion and guarantee salvation. Well, Senator Harkin did it for us. Senator Harkin was the guy who put the ADA, he's a total hero. Total hero. By the way, he wasn't invited to the president's signing of the ADA, although I can't knock the president now because he signed it. He's wonderful. He signed it, one-issue person. So in your advocacy, again, making living, and by the way, I'm going to give you about 1,000 ideas of how to make money out of ADA, but that's not the prime thing. And the hyperopes, and the hyperopes, by the way, are always in the back. The myopes are in front. And when I talk about myopes and hyperopes, I'm not talking about sight. I'm talking about vision. How you process information and form meaningful relationships is the processing. And there are four kinds of people. There is the visual people, the V people. And you can do that. V people use words like, I see what you mean. V people are usually myopes who love closeness. How are you? Nice to see you. They're near point. You got near, mid, far, remote type people. Myopes are the people who are perfectionists. Myopes get divorced because myopes inspect all the time, and if the wife or the husband is not perfect, they get divorced. Myopes wear vertical stripes instead of horizontal stripes in their clothes. Myopes cross their legs. Myopes, okay, so this is, I can keep on going on, but the myopes are the ones who are designing the world. The myopes are the accountants and the engineers who are, everything has to be perfect. So therefore, if you're a myope, the myopes make the rottenest blind people. The reason is they're always looking and seeing, because if you're myope, you see the psychiatrist, you have a difficult time. The myopes go to art galleries. The myopes read books. They don't talk, they don't listen, they look and see. Okay, and you can do a percentage on this, and I'll show you how to do it. So I'm doing this so you can understand who your clientele is, and again, empathize. And if I say I know how you feel, don't believe me. I don't know how you feel. I don't know what it is to be a woman. I never made lovies with a man, and I never had a period, and I never did stuff like that. Okay, the A people, the auditory people. The auditory people are big mouths. The salespeople, they get up, they put on the television for company right away, or the radio. They're on the phone constantly they're talking, they're listening. They're mostly talking, but they listen too. The auditory people. Okay, so the auditory people, if you're auditory and you're marrying a V person, then you're compatible. And you have to be compatible, come and you're compatible too. You have to be compatible with your environment. And that's what you people do. You people create environments through products. And I'm going to give you tons of products later on that you can expand your business creating the services, because with ADA, it's a big secret. Nobody knows about ADA. Employers don't know about ADA. People with disabilities don't know. Well, they do. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. And if you create the products and do things, then you would be the expert, because there's a huge vacuum. There's a huge window of opportunity for DME people, for sales type people, for manufacturers to fill this huge vacuum where before, people were against Medicare and Medicaid and all the stuff, government intervention, and now it's a way of life. And the good thing about ADA is we're never going to go back. Thank heavens, this country, we're never going to go back to the chocolate people in the back of the bus and the vanilla people in front of the bus. We're not going to go back to isolation. Leaving people, and we're talking about 42 million people in the country, leaving them out, because ADA says that's a no-no. That's the first word the baby learns. Don't do that. That's a no-no. Don't touch. Now, we're doing that. Okay. Now, the next person we're talking about is the K person. The K person is the kinesthetic person. That's the person who bounces the ball. The kinesthetic person, and by the way, the A person is a rotten deaf guy. The A person is a rotten esophageal speech guy. So you understand that you can diagram people and use compatibility studies and understand where the penalty is paid, and then there'll be a dynamic warp built within the person, because the person was designed along lines of stress in order to avoid negative stress. There's plus stress, zero stress, minus. My bones, my muscle pulls on the bones grow. If it too much, contractures, what have you, bones break. Not enough, doesn't develop. Atrophy, bad stuff. So you want to be at the plus stress on everything you do. Intellectual stress, moral stress, whatever you do, stress is good. Plus stress is good. Zero stress, you're losing time. Can't do that, sorry. Plus stress, I can't handle that. And there has to be flexibility in the organism, because in the palm tree, if it doesn't have flexibility, it breaks. Okay, the kinesthetic person is the person who doesn't mind cleaning the house. It doesn't mind running around here doing stuff. The kinesthetic wheelchair riders are doing wheelies all the time. Even though you're quadriplegic, even though you're a paralyzed guy, woman, if you're a K person, your engine is going. You're hyperactive, a hyperactive child. You'll keep on going. And you can, by the way, you can teach people like that. 2 times 2, you use your whole body and use whatever the person's strength is in order to help the person. Okay, then the last person is the T person. The T person is touch, keep in touch. Hey, that's heavy, man. Keep in touch. The T person is combing their hair, touching themselves. The typist, the bookkeeper. Those are the T people. T people make rotten arm amputees. You also touch through your feet. You educate your feet. Blind person has to educate their feet when they square off, and when they do things, you have to educate your tush so you know where you're sitting and you're facing the air conditioner. So the whole body input, everything is integrated, interrelated, and interdependent. When one goes down, the others go down. Does a blind person hear better than a sighted person? Huh? No. It goes down. Everything goes down. So when you do have a disability, you don't have this magic sense, which is nonsense. You don't do that. Everything goes down. So what you do in therapy and through your equipment, that's why you people have a holy responsibility. Because if you give the guy or the lady the rotten seat and the rotten chair and the rotten equipment, that person pays the penalty, is not going to function, is not going to have a happy life, and you're the bad guys. So I want the best. I want the best wife. I got the best wife here. By the way, this is my wife, Sonia. She's a professor at the medical school. She's a family doctor. She taught me everything I know. And no comment. So in doing that, And really, with all the degrees I have, and all the studies, and I read 1 or 2 books, the best thing I do is I figure stuff out by myself, and you can do it too. You can figure out how to adapt the environment in order to allow this person to fight the battle. And the battle is gravity. See, gravity's trying to kill these people. These people, eventually gravity will. Gravity's going to drive you in the ground. So you have to have the tools, and you guys are responsible for the tools to fight the battle. So what are the tools I need? I need VAKT. I need those tools. And if you row your boat gently down the stream, you know the rules. The ones with the most merrilies wins life is but a dream. When you become a person with a disability, you lose some merrilies. And you're not rowing gently. You broke your tool. You broke your oar. I got the best oars, and I make sure my kids have the best oars in town. We polish the oars. We got a compass. Who's in charge, by the way? Who's in charge of the compass? Who's in charge of your boat? When you become a person with a disability, everybody jumps on. You got lawyer sharks in the water. You got Dr. Brox, and then you have role reversals where the wife wants to take over, the husband wants to take over, so he jumps in your boat while you're trying to row your boat, and then who's in charge of the compass? Who's in charge of the rudder? So a person who comes to you, and of course we have degrees and we have all the certificates, and we're going to have an ADA certificate, we have a chance now to take over their lives. Oh yeah, I know this. Don't say anything. I know more about this than you. And the mastectomy lady, the terrible body image. So, if you're kind and gentle and meet their needs, your role is not to meet your needs. You're a servant. Your role is to meet their needs. And you have to find out what they need in order to survive. You have the tools. And the tools have to be shiny, bright, not rusty. New tools. I want the best tools. Wheelchair is a tool. Without the wheelchair, I ain't going nowhere. So I have to have the best tools. I have to have avoidance reactions, denials, rationalizations, intellectualizations in order to psych you people out. That's my tools to do this stuff. You're going to listen. That's your tools to process information. Okay. There are several things. I'm looking at my notes now. Referrals. That's part of this thing. Team approach and networking. Somebody comes to you for a wheelchair or a cane or what have you. They can't afford it. You can make referrals. There's tons of agencies that you can make referrals for them and work with that agency as a team approach for you to then supply money for them to buy the equipment. So if you work with the state agency, vocational rehabilitation, and if they're, you guys are regressive. You guys are, for the most part, you're auditory. Auditory people like oral sex, they like oral everything. Okay, on the phone. So if you are auditory and super aggressive, super aggressive people, the people who work for the state, and they're all my brothers and sisters, I love them dearly, but if they work for the state and work for the government, when they were kids, instead of coloring, outside the lines, they color inside the lines. They're myopes. You guys, in order to have a business, were hyperopes, psychological hyperopes, because you took a risk. When your mommy and daddy said, be careful when you go out, they didn't say have a good wrist, dear. Go out and really give it to them. No, they said be careful. So the people who work for the state, and again, not deprecating, they're all part of the religion because they're all trying to help people with disabilities, but you can refer to the state blind services. And another thing you can do is have seminars. If you had a seminar and everybody comes to a pizza dinner, if you give pizza, then all the state people and the federal people will all come out if you feed them. And it's during work hours. After work hours, everybody goes home. Nobody gets involved. And that's another thing. Somebody said God's not dead. He just doesn't want to get involved. So I offended somebody. Good. If you get involved and become on the board of the Crippled Children's Society. Crippled. Get rid of that. The Spastic Association. Get rid of that. and you get involved at night. Just don't go home. If you go and get involved and become an advocate with the Paraplegic Association. Now we got the law in our pocket. Before, the only thing we had was the law that says you can't kick out guide dogs. And by the way, there are some, we have some anti-feminist humor. That's another thing that's going to go out. Fortunately, black humor is not popular anymore. We can't say that stuff. What kind of salad do you give someone with epilepsy? A seizure salad. Well, that's out. That's a bad joke. The good joke is, why can't blind people go skydiving? Scares the shit out of the dog. I hope this is not being recorded. I'm sorry, Now, why is that a good joke? Because blind people can go skydiving. Why can't they? The reason is the dog. So we got tons of, moron jokes, and we got tons of, and that's all. And again, as advocates, because when you have a retarded youngster, and the mother, what do I do? And they go to you. So I'm going to give you tons and tons of ideas to go into new businesses, and the hyperopes, the myopes are the accountants, and they're just running the paperwork for the company. The guy who's the president of the company and the lady who's the president of the company is the hyperope, who sees the whole department and sees the advantage of ADA and how to market ADA. Now, the good part is that who is your customers now and your clients? The bad thing about rehab is that if I'm working for a big insurance company and they're paying me $500,000 a year, my advocacy is to rip off the blind guy. And I'm an equal opportunity ripper-offer. You see, I treat people with disabilities just as bad as I treat people without disabilities. Treat everybody. If you see somebody robbing from a sighted guy and he doesn't rob from a blind guy, that's bad. He has to treat everybody. That's part of the ADA. Everybody goes and gets treated equally as bad or equally as good. So, in networking and developing, your clients now is everybody with a pulse. I discriminate against people without pulses. There's millions of people walking around without pulses, and I don't deal with them at all. I don't talk to them, and those are the only people I don't deal with. The rest of the people, now your clientele, instead of, Mrs. So-and-so who stroked out, your clients now are every business in town. And the law went into effect January 26th as far as accessibility. So now, not only over a cocktail party where you say 2.5% of the country is, different disability groups, and I haven't touched my slides yet, and I guess the second session I'd do that. The clients now who are needing information, you guys have to have the information about ADA, because who do they go to? If I call up my friendly federal government, OSHA, or the Department of Labor, EEOC representative, and the government, and by the way, the government set up that the only way to enforce ADA is to sue. The government said it. So next secretary you hire, her name should be Sue. On that, just on the paper, looking for secretary named Sue. So by networking with the rehab person, and you may want to hire rehab people, and there are three parts of the ADA. There's human services, ergonomics, and rehabilitation. You guys, for the most part, and you ladies, I'm sorry, if I say guys, I meant that's generic. Okay, you ladies and gentlemen, you people. For the most part, I'm not going to tell you about C5, person with C5 quadriplegic. You probably know that stuff. You know about verticality. You know about the equipment. You've evaluated the equipment. So you know rehab, but you don't know human resources, and you don't know some of the ergonomics. You know a lot of the ergonomics. You know a lot about stuff. What I've done is I set up an ADA compliance specialist network, and I'm training people to do that, Because if you call the government for a courtesy evaluation and they come in, they by law have to fine you, OSHA or ADA. If they go in for an ADA evaluation courtesy, and there's only 500 people for the whole country, if they go in and they see an OSHA violation, they have to report the OSHA violation by law. Unless you drug them or something like that, and I don't know about what kind of drugs to use on those people. And another thing is, those people, and I'm not bad-mouthing these people, they're being hired, but they don't know anything about disability. They know chocolate and vanilla. Don't rip off a chocolate guy or a strawberry guy. Only don't do that. Don't rip off women by putting dirty things on the women's room or the men's room. They know that. The people that the government have don't know what you know. So again, what you can do is run a big seminar. And the law, and by the way, you have to be knowledgeable about this stuff. For instance, you walk into the hotel. Now, these are things that I'm private labeling, again, marketing, but this is an angle finder with the ADA Compliance Network on it. I put this on the ramp. You also use it as a goniometer to see if the person, how the person bends down for the nursing type people over here. So you have this, you put it on the ramp, you can also put it on the wheelchair, see if the wheelchair, what grade it goes up, and it has, it's a angle finder. Then another thing you carry around is this, and it's just a nice scale, and a tape measure. So if you know the regulations, and by the way, the ADA says, whichever is more stringent, your local law or the standards, the UFIS and the ANSI standards that we have melded into the ADA, and you have to have that. That's the Bible, and you have to study it and read it because you want to be knowledgeable. This is your chosen field. So if you have a parallel equation between the local standards, because if the local standards, then a lot of that stuff is opinion. And who's the opinion is experts. And who's the experts but us? My federal title, by the way, is experts. I've been working since '65 for the federal government, and they gave me the title as an expert. So I'm an official expert. So as an expert, who's going to do the forensic stuff? When this stuff hits the fan, and we have 60 million lawsuits being filed by advocates, people who, blind people, wheelchair riders, who are going to be advocates, who are going to say, not only am I going to fight the battle for me, but all the people coming after me, they're going to file lawsuits with their friendly attorney, who is going to be the labor lawyers. And by the way, in my slide presentation, I have Lawyers Association that are forming to do this, and their lawsuits have been filed. The first title is barriers. That's passed. The second one is the July 26th, which is the employment, 25 more employees. That's the big one, but that's the human services. What we're talking about is equipment, and that's already in, and they've had 2 years to do it. There's a 90-day moratorium, and Salt Lake City made a deal with the government to say, leave us alone, and there's all sorts of deals, but eventually, that's going to be. So when you walked into this hotel, by the way, did you measure the doors? The doors are over 8 pounds. 8 pounds outside doors, 5 pounds inside doors. They're in violation. The ramps, when you see the ropes that segregate you from the cashier, they're down, so you trip on the ropes. Did you say anything about that? Did you? There's so many things. You go to the elevator. They have very quiet elevators, so the blind person puts the elevator door, and then they're waiting for the elevators, and usually there's usually something to indicate where the button is. And we take it for granted, by the way. You people are visual people, and you take it for granted, all these visual things. You people are walkers, hoppers, skippers, and jumpers. You take it for granted. And if you empathize with your clients, the people who are buying your products, then you say, what is this guy going through? So you go here with the elevator opens and closes very quietly, very nice. And you're standing there. You don't know which elevator you go in. I don't know what elevator. Usually the elevator goes ding. Oh, yeah, and you find the elevator. Okay? We're trying to move to talking elevators. I wrote the Braille elevator button law. Some of the things, if you go through the buildings, now, I don't want you to be a vulture and posture and to say, I'm here and I'm an ADA expert and you guys, I'm going to take your certificate of occupancy away, close up the department store now. No, we're gentle. We're very kind, gentle people. So we say, sir, I'm not an official guy, but I just noticed that you're in violation of ADA. You got, like Wendy's. I can give you tons of stuff, tons of stuff. Hyatt Hotel. The good people are modifying now. And again, it's the spirit of ADA. If they're trying and they're doing something, then I love them and I'll help them and I won't charge them for it. And by the way, I offer services for free, and it's amazing. And I tell people I'll do their survey for free. They want to pay me, and they say, how much you want to pay, how much you want? So I said, well, I don't know. So I figured $1,500. And they paying me $1,500 to go do a building. In Chicago, it's $3,000. You can do that. If you can learn yourself. You can charge them or not charge them as long as you have malpractice insurance. I mean, we're doing this all over the country because people want to know. But besides that, look what you're doing for your people. When I say your people, that's arrogant. The people you're dealing with, that you're dedicated. I don't know, to be a DME dealer, do you take an oath? I don't know if you take an oath, but you should. You should. The slogan is, everybody wants to save you money, but we rip you off less than everybody else. When you go in there and as an insider, now I'm not an outsider, I'm not a beggar, I can do job placement as an insider by telling the human resource guy, listen, your testing is not for, dyslexic people. This has to be large print. Do you all have, for instance, the big posters with the affirmative action and equal in that? Well, we have the big posters with Braille on top, with all the posters in one thing. Not screening people out, screening people in. So as an insider, inside the school board, inside the power company, as an insider, again, with common sense, which isn't common, with common sense, you people either train your own staff to do that, have inside seminars where you're inviting, you do a big mailing, because, that's show business. You do a mailing for employers with 25 more employers. And you say, we're doing an ADA seminar, folks, and we charge you $25. And you give them the pizza, whatever you want to do. And then you bring in the speaker from Human Resources, and then you offer them the ADA. You give them the ADA, let them do their own. And we have questionnaires and surveys and check sheets where you can go through your building. Again, we take it for granted, and everything we think of is wheelchairs. And you guys, in your stores, have an old clunker wooden cane and say, that's our blind section. And there's tons of stuff that you can have, but where the blind people and where they go for all this, not exotic. I have, there's a talking wristwatch.
It's 11:39 a.m.
The talking wristwatch, where can I buy a talking wristwatch in the town? Men's, woman's, you can have man's voice, woman's voice, and you never get lonely, by the way. They talk to you. So if you have and expand, you have a section for diabetics, but you have a section for blind people who are diabetics, so you don't have the syringe. And so all this equipment, or the catalogs that you can get this stuff. So in ADA stuff, you're offering the equipment, but the most important thing is, who are you? Who are you? If I am, if you ask your children, who's your dad? My dad is DME guy. What's that? I don't know, but he's DME guy, or DME lady, or a respiratory therapist, or whatever. Now you become a person with a disability, and what are you? You're not working, you're a bum. People who don't work are bums. One of the most valuable thing you have is your identity, your self-concept, your ego ideal is who you are. So part of the religion is job placement. That's the best thing you can do. You can save lives. And all the laws are going to change. The workman's compensation law, ADA is going to, and it's interesting, there was an article my wife showed me yesterday in the Medical Tribune where it says, you know, we don't want these people to work, the people who have multiple injuries. Don't let them work. And then it used all the wheelchair bound, it used all the bad terminology. They didn't read the ADA. Where workman's compensation is going to change is the job search. The person goes now, the law says you got to do a job search, and the person goes in, and if the person can do the job, instead of the employer saying you can't work, the employer gets a lawsuit. So that job search is all going to change. The second injury, you know, you all know about the second injury fund in every state. You know about that? Anybody doesn't know about the second injury fund? Okay, all the tactual people raise your hands. See, all the people like to touch the air. The rest of the people were shy. The visual people, the auditory people would have said, yeah, me. The second injury fund says in every state that if you have an injury and you get a job and the employer knows about the injury, then the state reimburses your workman's compensation carrier, which is a way we get people working, because now you have no excuse. My insurance company goes with that. And by the way, the insurance companies can't discriminate unless actuarially they demonstrate that a person with disability costs them more. So if your insurance rates go up, just don't belly up. Fight that insurance company and say, prove to me that this guy, because this guy has one eye, or this lady has a, you know, laminectomy post blah blah, prove to me, and I reject that rate goes up. I don't want to pay that rate. ADA says you can't do that. I'm sorry, did I wake you up? Did I wake somebody up? Okay, so that's going to change. All the insurance laws are going to change. This is a sleeping giant that you guys have to get, you ladies and gentlemen have to get aware of. It's a sleeping giant. LTD cases, you get LTD cases, long-term disability, short-term disability. That's all going to change. All the HMOs, you know, rejection from HMOs. Now, you are employers as well. And as employers, you have to set the example. And I can make a lot of money, by the way, by running a seminar of how to beat ADA. Everybody want to go know how to ploy? And my name is Bob Obfuscation. And I use big words like delicatessen, you know, and obfuscation and things like that. And I can show you how to beat ADA. I mean, I can show you to do that. And eventually, we're going to have people in the field who are going to be, who big companies are going to hire in order to testify that this guy can't, but this woman, man can't do the thing. But by you being insiders and people in your company being insiders, you can show them how to manipulate the milieu, change the environment in order to allow this person to work or go into a store. At least the dignity of going into a store. If you have a retarded youngster, I want to go where the mother has enough room in the fitting booth for the mother and the child. I want the mirrors on the top. No big deal, just the mirrors. And by the way, tons of tax incentives. Tons of tax incentives. So the person who complains, the Republicans who complain that this is going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to, no, a lot of tax incentives, and it may, and you, again, as religious people, religious to the ADA, and believers, and hopefully you're believers, and you're not one of them, you're one of us. You know, you're not one of the people who say it's going to cost us money, we don't want to do that, get rid of the person. Instead of doing that, you show the person how they can do this. If I can't do the job and there's people around to help me, the law says you got to have the people help me. If I have to go home because I have a sick wife, you have to let me go home. Or if my gay lover has AIDS, then you have to equal. You have to allow me to do it. So the country, opposite Nazi Germany, opposite the bad countries, you know, the bad country is always the fatherland. The nice countries are the motherland. Motherland is nice and gentle. And the fatherland is always the strict father. The nice countries, and you know, are like my wife and I went to England, and the bus driver gets off to help the old people on the bus. We treat old people like criminals here. Now, I'm not going to get old, not me. You know, I got so many wrinkles. My wife used my stomach for a road map now. So by doing this and by having knowledge, and I'm going to go into, how much time we got, by the way? Okay, we got 15 minutes. I got a whole bunch of slide stuff to educate you. I guess the next session, you guys will be gone, but the next session we'll get the slide presentation. Oh, okay, other things. We're talking about product development. I have a computer program that anybody wants to see, and the computer program that we did, we have several computer programs. The one computer program is ADA computer program, and you just put it on your computer, ask it any question, and it'll tell you all the answers on ADA. I have it booted up on my laptop here. Can't see it, I don't have the projection on it, but I have that. I have another computer program that does essential job tasks. You, in your business, if I'm going to be a sales guy and I can't talk on the phone, obviously not qualified. But if I am a wheelchair rider, if I have no arms, and I want to be a salesperson, if I'm an A person and I'll be a salesperson and I can demonstrate I can do it, then there's tons of adaptation. And by the way, you people, as far as making money, that's good, but the other thing is that you might, for instance, what I do is I advertise and people give me their old computers. And I fix their old computers and then I give them away to people with disabilities. And I go into computer stores, and the computer stores, and you make a deal, by the way, with the Paraplegic Association, where if the guy wants to trade in the wheelchair, and right now you say, hey, this wheelchair is nothing. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a tax deduction for that wheelchair. Give it to the Paraplegic Association, Paralyzed Veterans Association, fix it up, storehouse it, school board, tons and tons of people that you can do that and work with computers. So your image now is a helping image. You know that, hey, got no money, don't want to deal with you. Don't want to deal with it. Don't have no money, we'll refer you to the appropriate agency, and you have the referral sources, United Way, what have you, and then they come back and they pay you to do this stuff. The other computer programs is we have a computer program that does the ergonomics, which means that if you fill out the questionnaire, you get a computer printout if the building and the human services is in compliance. The other thing is training. You people, I belong to American Society of Training and Development, and also the Human Factors Society. Very important. The Human Factors Society, we just formed a new group in the Human Factors Society. That's the Ergonomic Society. And I know you guys have certifications up to Wawa, and you ladies have, all the degrees and all the enough organizations, enough right. There's a couple of dollars. And the Human Factors Society, I learned more from that organization. Fantastic journals. We have like 5,000 scientists doing research. And the reason I'm in there as a rehab guy, and I think I'm the only rehab guy that belongs, is I steal from them.
This concludes Side A. Please flip the tape to continue the program.
I preach to them that they can turn it around. And again, with the Cold War over, and the Japanese have won the Cold War, and they're way ahead of us, by the way. They got the best cane for blind people in the world. We're importing that stuff. But the Human Factors Society, they're in Santa Monica, California. You can call them. They got, and we have a new subgroup of people like this. So you get educated. For instance, I was doing a study on grip. What are the best grips for a person without some fingers to grab? And I had the transducers, and I had the computer set up, and really good experiment. And then I went to Human Factors Society, and one of the scientists says, "Oh yeah, I've done that study. I just put finger paint on the grip of the cane, and I squeezed it, and then I see where the hot spots are, and I can." I said, finger paint. I learned from that stuff. The other Human Factors Society, and training. Okay, when you go into a hotel, the doorman has to know how to transfer, how to help that person without hurting his own back, and you can sell a binder for the doorman so he can lift, and how to put the wheelchair in the car. That's training. The banquet manager, you got to train the banquet manager at this hotel as far as what forms to put out. And by the way, my new book is coming out this month. It's called ADA ABCs, and it's published by JIST. I can give you the 800 number, but JIST Publishing Company in Indianapolis, Indiana. And my book has all the forms in it, all the stuff you want, so you